And good morning. It's your brother, Greg Meriweather. And welcome to No Apologies, Please. Man, we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about a lot of the violence. First of all, let me say thank you to everyone who wished me a happy birthday. I had a great birthday weekend. I'll call it great. I'll call it great. It had its challenges, but I'll call it great. I got a lot of calls. Due to a lot of violence that took place over the weekend, which was kind of disheartening. So I had a portion of my weekend was pretty rough simply because just hearing the tragic news of some of the things that have happened over the weekend kind of just dampened the day and, it kind of made it a little challenging. So today, man, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that happened over the weekend, the Broad Ripple incident. We're going to talk about chime back in on manhood because I think that a lot of the issues that are going on have a lot to do with manhood issues, and then we're gonna do some random conversation with your brother this morning. So let's get ready, man. Sit back and relax. It's No Apologies, Please. N.A.P. with your brother, Greg Meriweather. Let's get going. So, man, good morning. Good to be back. Working on lining up some guests. Got some people on deck, and let me tell you, man, it's a whole lot of work doing this job. But when it's all said and done, I'm grateful to be able to do it. Good morning, my sister Mimi Morris. Glad to see you on. I'm here in the flesh, trying to smile it out. But when it's all said and done, it's not always glitz and glamour. Sometimes it's a little rough and murky. Sometimes I'm in the mud, but nonetheless, I'm still here. And I think that that's one of the things that we have to understand when we see Black men show up. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to know what's going on in our world. We're showing up. Sometimes we show up and we smile and we're discouraged. Sometimes we're hurting. Sometimes we're worrying. But and then sometimes we just we may be in a good mood, but know this. When you see brothers showing up, man, please, give them some love. Give them some love. So I want to start out the show by going and talking about our dear sister. Some news came out yesterday, and this was from Fox 59, and it's talking about our sister Jean Breaux. It says State Senator Jean Breaux discusses recent health issues after months-long absence, and this was by Tyler Hahn. This was Fox 59 on March 18th. I'll briefly go through it. It says, Indianapolis, Indiana State Senator Jean Breaux announced Monday the time has come for her to focus on enjoying the time I have left surrounded by my loved ones amid ongoing health issues. Breaux has been serving in the Indiana Senate since 2006 and has also participated as a member of the Indiana Recycling Market Development Board and the Medicaid Advisory Commission. Breaux represents District 34, which includes portions of Center, Lawrence, Warren, and Washington Townships in Marion County. In a statement released Monday, Senator Breaux discussed some of her career highlights as she reflected on her nearly 2 decades as a state house senator. The statement fell short of specifically mentioning her imminent resignation. A request for clarification wasn't immediately returned. She discussed her efforts to improve Indiana's Black infant and mother mortality rates and access to healthy food while working to address historical poverty, gun violence, and reproductive justice. The senator did not include any specific information about her health condition. Breaux's full statement can be read below. It states, after a hard-fought battle with my health, the time has come for me to focus on enjoying the time I have left surrounded by my loved ones. I want to express my sincerest gratitude to everyone who has reached out, to my State House colleagues and team, and to the community I have been so incredibly grateful to represent for nearly 2 decades. I am extremely proud of the work we did together to improve Black infant and maternal mortality, increase access to healthy food and food deserts, protect Hoosiers from rising utility costs, fight for reproductive justice, pass policies to address poverty, keep our community safe from gun violence, and so much more. The support, love, and trust from every one of you has fueled my fight and allowed me to do my best work on behalf of Senate District 34. I encourage my Senate colleagues to continue this work with a fighting spirit and a heart for those struggling in Senate District 34 and across the state. I will always be grateful for the trust placed in me by our community, the unfailing support of my colleagues, and the amazing family, friends, and allies I have acquired during my time in the Senate. Representing our community has been a highlight of my life and career, and it has filled me with so much joy and purpose. I send my eternal love and best wishes to you all, Senator Bro. And I'll be real on this. It's that's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. For those of you who have kept up with your politics and the politics of Indiana, and Senator Bro has been around for quite some time. As you can see, she's put in a lot of work. And let me say this, and I know that I know I can be one who can be critical. But I will say this: in the Senate, it's not the easiest job to get a lot of stuff passed. They are in a super, super, super minority. When you look at 92 counties in the state of Indiana and you realize the majority of those counties are predominantly white, then you understand the job and the task and taxing task of trying to get laws passed that matter to brown and black people. And so my hat goes off to Senator Bro. My prayers are with her and her family. We're wishing her all the best. And now we've got a seat. Now we got a seat that we have to work on getting filled. I'm not sure, what the process is with the Democratic Party as it relates to getting someone to be prepared for that seat. But that's definitely a seat that we cannot lose in the Senate. Even though, like I said, Senator Bro is now going on with her life and living her best life to the best that she possibly can until God chooses for her to come home. And we just want to send her out with love and again be prepared for what's next. So shout out to Senator Bro and her family. So moving forward, man, there was a situation, there was an incident, killing in Broad Ripple that touched a lot of lives, and I received some information from a person that I would consider a friend about the situation and how it impacted their family. Unfortunately, a young man lost his life in that shooting where 6 people were shot, and he was one of the fatality in that incident. And I just really want to touch on this because I believe that right now, summer is right around spring is right around the corner. Summer is nearing. The sad thing about great weather, one of the saddest things about great weather as it relates to the Black community is what happens, the violence that comes from us just having beautiful days. And that is such a challenging thing to think about, because when we have beautiful days, the last thing that I ever want to think about is violence. It's like when the sun is shining on us, the breeze is beautiful, the air seems clean, and we just get, have the ability to be outside and just bask in the sun. And you find it's the most violent times in our communities. And yeah, that just kind of baffles me. But I want to talk about this story because I know some people that knew this young man, and I definitely want to touch on it because it was a tragic accident, or not even an accident, but a totally tragic situation that took place. So this is an article from the Indy Star talking about this young man. And so this states this is public safety. It was under public safety in the Indy Star, written by Christine Phillips, and this was published on March 17th. And it says the best father. Broad Ripple shooting victim was a beloved family man, mentor, and coach. It says the last time Veronica Gatewood talked to her son, Timothy Brown Jr., he told her, quote, "I love you, mama," end quote. And she said, "I love you back." On Friday, She called him again and left him a voicemail telling him, as she always does, that she loves him. Brown was killed a few hours later in one of the latest incidents of gun violence in Indianapolis this year. The 37-year-old and five other people were shot at a Broward bar early Saturday morning. The others survived, but Brown died at the hospital, leaving behind his parents, his younger brother, and his 5-year-old daughter. None of what happens makes sense to Gatewood, which is his mother. And it's just this happened at Land Sharks bar at about after 1 a.m., where five men with gunshot wounds were taken to area hospitals. A sixth man arrived at an area hospital in his own transportation, and investigators have not said what precipitated the shooting or how an armed person was able to enter the bar. IMPD Police Chief Chris Bailey said that the agency cannot control security protocols at individual businesses, and Broward bars have a responsibility to ensure their patrons have a safe experience in their establishments. And this is just my top story because I know the family of his daughter. I know the grandparents of his daughter, and on the mother side, and I know that they're devastated. And this is just a sad thing because our love for each other has diminished. We live in a society where throwing people away is normal. We don't Conflict resolution has just gone to the pits. The sad part about this is that there are a lot of people who are making a lot of money who are saying they have the key or the remedy to ridding this thing of gun violence. Let's be clear. There's a lot of gun violence that does not involve Black people. There's a lot of gun violence that could be attached to suicide. There's a lot of gun violence that can be attached to like a wrongful discharge or a child having a gun that they should not have in their hands, and the gun discharging, taking the life of a child. And when we think about all these things, we realize there's a lot going on. The challenge I have with this is that who's dying the most? Black men. And when you look at that article, one of the saddest parts of that article is the fact that it states that five men with gunshot wounds were taken to an area hospital. I'm not saying they were all Black. The fact that five men were shot, six men were shot that night. Five men were taken to the hospital. Five others, one took themselves and one passed. What are we going to do when you realize that 800 men or 800 homicides are happening in the city of Chicago on a regular basis, and the majority of them are Black men? What are we going to do when we're just totally annihilating our future? When the age is changing? When the age of who's dying and the age of who's killing is getting younger and younger and younger? I my heart goes out because now you have a young 5-year-old child without her father, who was deemed a good dad. And let me say this: this is not just coming from his mother. I've never spoken to his mother. I've spoken to the young lady's mother and father, who are devastated about him being gone. And everybody doesn't get the chance. What does it look like when it's not fathers leaving, it's fathers being taken? And now you have a young lady who's going to grow up and have to have all these so-called surrogates, per se. Her history is gone. Things about herself that she will never understand unless someone tells her about it, things about her father that are going to live inside her that would easily be remedied because they know it's him, that could be easily remedied by his presence, have now been taken away from this young lady at 5 years old. The disadvantages of not having a father are so pivotal. And yes, there's some woman out there that may be upset who does not agree with this, but I'm going to say it. We are so necessary. We are so necessary. And when people do the job of taking him, it's one thing. Then others do the job of removing him, for lack of better terms, and then we have fathers who flee. But the other two are happening at a rate that is so crazy. Dad's being taken away. Dad's being taken away in so many realms. Dad's being taken away and going to prison. Dad is being taken away in the physical, total physical, by being slain. Dad is being removed by lack of great relation, and him and mama don't get along, so she don't want him around. And then dad is fleeing. Now, when I look at all four of these, I'm like, how is one to survive? How is one to survive when the future of your village, when the protector of your village, when the wisdom of your village is all being taken away at a rampant rate? And I want the people who say they can fix it to come on. I want the people who are getting paid to say that they know what the key is to come on this show. Because when I look at this, and every day, and I'm really realizing that there's $50 million in a crime prevention fund. 50, 50, $50 million being utilized to say, we know how to, we're and when we say we're stopping this stuff, when we say we're stopping this stuff and nothing is stopping, it truly upsets my spirit. Because how is this making sense to anyone? We can connect, we can do the fundraisers, we can do the what's that called, trust funds, we can build all this stuff, we can do everything in the world to try to make this little 5-year-old young lady's life financially better. We can figure out a way for her to go to college, but none of it will replace her father. None of it's going to replace her father teaching her how to date. Nothing's going to replace her father's, her seeing her father in her life, striving, doing things, trying to be better. When it's all said and done, I see my sister Mimi Morris on here, and I remember when her father passed away. And I know the impact that her father's passing has on her as an adult woman, as a 50-plus-year-old woman. I know the impact that it has on her. I can look at people on this stream right now, and I know and know the people who've had their fathers in their lives, who understand what it meant and how it felt and how they felt protected and how the things that they learned. And I want us to take these messages into our communities. The crazy thing about this is we could talk, we can have all the programs that we want to, but until we understand the impact of the loss, when someone is really about to say all the things that are being said currently, right now, by me, and then share this message to say, this is what it means. This is what happens when you take a father out. And it could be the perpetrator and the victim. This is what happens when they're gone. Are we tired of going to prison? Are we tired of talking about being about that life? Are we tired of being the antagonist of murder? How about that one? Are we tired of being the people who push people to do something that they should not do? How many women have called brothers and it wasn't a situation where anyone touched you? It was just you was upset. How many of us have lied on someone and caused a whole melee, even if it was a fight? How many of us have created situations where we got in the mix of something and said, you should do something, as opposed to being true peacemakers? We have so much blood on our hands as individuals that we don't even think about it. We don't look and say, you know what, I probably should not have egged that on. I probably should have said, you know what, bro, walk away. I probably should not have said, I'm gonna call my brother or I'm gonna call my uncle, especially if it wasn't a situation where it needed to, somebody needed to be handled. It's like our minds don't even think about tomorrow anymore. It's our emotion. Not one person is worth casting out. Yeah, we have some people that do some real heinous stuff. And when we start thinking about people's minds and say, how do we fix the mind? Is it jail? Is it prison? Is it? How many people put the end first? How many people think about, what if I do this thing? And if I do this thing, am I committed to the end? I asked that. I used to ask that in the jails. I used to go and I say, okay, if you had put this as the result of your action first, if you had thought about you sitting in this cell, missing out on your kids, missing out on your community, missing out on your family, missing out on yourself, because even in that place, the true denial of self is taking place right in front of you, because you're looking in the mirror and saying, I could have possibly avoided this. Now I have the ability for me to expand. Heck yeah, I can expand my mind, but I'm confined at this point. So the expansion of my mind has no action. I can talk all day, but I can't create the mobility that's in my mind to say, I'm a better dad, I'm a better son, I'm a better community person. I could think all those things because I'm not on the outside. So although my mind could be doing something, my physical being is stunted. So at this point, I can't do anything. And I want us to think about that. Because when we start thinking like that, then maybe we just won't make that decision to go to prison. Maybe we won't make that decision to pull that trigger. Maybe we'll realize that 5 pounds of pressure can end everything that I've ever tried, everything I've wanted, everything that I have. 5 pounds of pressure can totally transform my life into rubbish simply because I did not think. Simply because I listened to someone else. I'm not a man, but had I thought first about the outcome and ramifications, I wouldn't have pulled the trigger. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people don't. They again, when Brian Mears was on the show, and he talked about the fact that a lot of these young men, that's their first offense ever, and it makes me think about what pushed them to that point. And in my mind, with the level of influence that our children have every single day, I am willing to bet that there was a majority of people involved that got into that person's head and basically said, you being a punk, or you being weak, or you being soft. And that person said, I'm about to do something to make it seem like I'm hard, only to end up in a place where all these people that egged you on are going to keep living their lives while you're going to be stagnant. Tough reality, but it's a real one. So then we have this other incident where, a brother of mine called me, and he stated that this shooting was one that was a dear friend of his, and it was a friend of his. It was their son. So the son of a friend of one of my guys called me about this incident, and you know when these things are taking place, man, so many people are hurt, and so this was on March, posted on March 17th, WRTV, and it said the shooting on the northeast side of Indianapolis left one person dead Sunday. According to IMPD, officers responded to the 2400 block of Hillside Avenue, the New Bridge Apartments, on a report of shots fired just before 4 p.m. Upon arrival, officers located an adult male victim with gunshot injuries. The victim died on the scene, IMPD confirmed. IMPD homicide detectives have responded to the scene to begin their investigation. Anyone with information about this incident should contact Detective Anthony Johnson at IMPD Homicide Office at 317-327-3475 or email at anthony.johnson@indy.gov. And when people call me about this, I hate to hear them hurting. And then when there's nothing else I can do but follow up and investigate and see, what the heck was going on. What else do I have? Why are we, you know, thinking about this show, and I'm gonna say this, why are we so afraid to share good information when messages like this should go forward? When someone who is willing to say things or even have the ability to say things that others may not have the ability to say, why are we not agents of our own lives? Why are we not people who say, you know what, I'm sick of it, G, and whatever we got to do to make sure the information is getting out, then we got to do it. When you realize this, it says, I'm reading something that says homicides have been the leading cause of death for Black men ages 15 to 44 for more than half a century. More than 86% of homicides in Black communities involve firearms. These disparities are even more striking for young Black men. Gun homicides are the leading cause of death and more than outstrip the next 15 leading causes of death combined. I'll say that again. These disparities are even more striking for young Black men. Gun homicides are the leading cause of death and more than outstrip the next 15 leading causes of death combined. In other words, in 2021, more Black men ages 15 to 24 died in gun homicides than from unintentional injuries, suicide, heart disease, COVID-19, cancer, non-firearm homicides, diabetes, congenital abnormalities, and chronic respiratory diseases, police shootings. You hear this? Cerebrovascular diseases, anemia, sepsis, influenza, and pneumonia, and HIV combined. I just read a plethora of stuff. And you take all those things that I just read: unintentional suicide, heart disease, COVID, cancer, non-firearm suicide or homicides, diabetes, congenital abnormalities, chronic respiratory disease, police shootings, cerebrovascular diseases, anemias, sepsis, influenza, and pneumonia, and HIV combined. Combined. And we chilling. We're chilling. And we looking and it's like we're raising killers. Don't be no punk. Live to see another day. What happened to that? That ain't how you handle that. Is prison what you want? Are you comfortable being away from your kids? Are you okay with your mother standing over your body? Are you okay with your father crying out over your death? Are you okay with your future being cut short? Are you okay with your name just diminishing off the face of the earth because you never did anything with it? Are you comfortable with that? I think not. I think not. I want to show this brief clip just about guns, and it's interesting because I mean this guy has a different perspective on guns. I'm not going to show you the whole clip, but he has a different perspective on guns, and I want you to listen to this because I think that there are different perspectives, and we should hear them all. So let's listen to this clip, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss what it is that we're hearing from this brother.
I love Envato Elements.
I love Envato Elements because not only does it inspire me
that we should spend more time trying to educate the population about guns instead of using BS stats to scare people away from them. At worst, education alone will cut the number of negligent discharges in half. At best, it'll reduce it nearly to nothing. Now, as far as the 8,863 actual murders, on average, 25% of all gun murders in America take place in 4 cities: Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, and Washington, D.C. Now, ask yourself this question. From a socioeconomic standpoint, what do all of these cities have in common? You guessed it. Each of these cities have well-known areas where the vast majority of their violence is concentrated in poverty-stricken, underdeveloped neighborhoods who have had the same leadership and power for decades that refuse to do anything to address the socioeconomic issues in these places. And no, it's not just a Black culture thing. I know a ton of Black families who live in the suburbs, and their kids aren't doing drive-bys in their BMWs. It's prolonged exposure to poverty that facilitates the violence in these neighborhoods. And even then, it's a small group of people committing the majority of the violence in these neighborhoods. If the leaders of these areas really wanted to stop the violence, instead of ignoring it on non-election years, only to exploit it for votes during election years, they would, and they can, but they gain and maintain more control in treating the symptom than they do providing the cure, so they don't. We could literally cut that 8,863 gun murders down to 6,648 just by putting our energy towards fixing the socioeconomic conditions in the inner city. And if we're feeling really ambitious, how about we also take that energy and focus on the mental health and figure out why we have the mass shootings that we do? Granted, mass shootings account for less than a statistical 0 when it comes to gun deaths. But it would do us some good to address the mental health issue in this country. And guess what else would go down as a result? You guessed it, suicides. Long story short, America does not have a gun violence problem. We have a suicide problem and a socioeconomic problem in our inner cities. Yes, we have gun violence, but compared to the multitude of things that are far more likely to kill us, why are we expending so much energy on destroying the Second Amendment when it's a fact that guns are used to kill less than 1% of the population? Gun control is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist and a weapon for people who want control. I know some of you are thinking, well, if you have such a small chance of being shot and killed, why do you need a gun for protection? That answer is easy. The chance of me using my gun in self-defense may be less than 1%. But if I become that percent, I can lose 100% of everything.
What's your thought? You know, that video is quite compelling to me. When you realize that, you know, he took, and I didn't want to show the complete video because he showed a lot of statistics that I thought were great, and if you ever get the chance to go look at that video, um, uh, yeah, Brother Noir, I think if you go look at that video, you'll get some alarming statistics. Um, According to the CDC, there are roughly about 8,000 actually gun homicides. every year. And he took the number, he took homicides, he discussed homicides, he discussed suicides, he discussed fatal discharges where someone has a gun that shouldn't have it. And then he broke down because it was showing that there were 40,000 gun violence issues every single year. He took the police action shootings, he added those in. But then when he broke it down and he said, okay, let's get down to how many people who are actually being murdered with guns every single year. And it was roughly around, let's push it to 9,000. And he's saying that that's not the reason to have gun reform. He's saying that we have to deal with the real issues. And one of the things that I've always stated is the socioeconomic issues that people face every single day. So if I look at Carmel, and it's deemed one of the safest places in the country, Fishers was also deemed one of the safest places in the country, right? And then I look and I say, but once I cross 96th Street and I'm in Indianapolis, I'm in one of the most violent places in the country, right? Here's the rub. Socioeconomics. Most of your violence takes place in places of blight, in places filled with poverty. How does that, what does that equation look like? That equation looks like this. If I'm hungry, I find a way to eat, right? In finding a way to eat, that comes by any means necessary. That means I will either rob a store, rob something, rob a person, right? So that could end violently. Let's be real. That could end violently either way, because it could end violently with the person who's trying to rob someone could easily be gone, just as the person being robbed, right? So when we look at that unfortunately, homicide does not mean murder. Homicide means your life was taken by someone else. Okay. That could also be qualified as a self-defense homicide. Okay? Not a murder. So that would eliminate that stat. Now, if someone just went and did the robbery, then that's murder. Also, it could be premeditated murders if we really look at it, because they thought about it, they plotted on it, they did this, so that could possibly get you 25 to life if we really think about that. Okay. The other place where a lot of homicides or a lot of murder takes place is in the drug trade. We know that when we look out here and someone shortchanges someone robs someone does something, the product ain't right, we know that comes with consequences. Unfortunately, that feeds into our murder rate. Now, keep in mind, I want y'all to keep Carmel and Fishers in the back of your minds, because when it's all said and done, you wonder why these things aren't happening, because the socioeconomic thing that's happening in those cities is that of substantial money, or what you may call wealth. What's the crime? Where's the crime prevention? I ask this all the time. Where's the crime prevention program in Carmel? And it's crazy because I see people on here, but it's crazy how people are not saying a freaking word, but they're so concerned about death and murder and homicides and this and the other, but they don't say a darn thing about it when it's on the line. But when we look at this, and I'm going to say this, as long as we're quiet, what pisses me off about our people is that we're quiet until it's knocking on our door. We ain't got nothing to say about it until it's ours. We all to the good as long as it's ours, until it's ours, and then we want to call the news, and we want to call the people, and we want to be on the news, and we want to buy the t-shirts, and then we want to let the balloons loose, and then we want to talk about it, and we want to cry, and we want to talk about all this stuff, but we never want to talk about it until it knocks at our door. Mamie Till had a comment back in the day during the civil rights movement. And she said, I'm going to tell you what she said. And it's interesting because she talked about the civil rights movement, right? And it was like she said, and this is me just running with it because I don't see the quote right now. But she said basically, she was like, I was in Chicago. I had my own home. I had my own job. I was doing well. And she said, I didn't think the civil rights movement had nothing to do with me until they killed Emmett. And then when they killed Emmett Till, she finally got involved. But until then, she was like, it ain't my business, ain't my issue. This is all our issue. This is everybody's issue. Especially if you got a young man in your world. Especially if you got a black man in your world, period. I don't care if he's young or old. I was living in Chicago, and I remember I was on my way to Indianapolis, and I was getting myself together, and I was in my place, and I was watching the news, and I remember hearing them say an 80-something-year-old man had just died, and it was a carjacking. And the crazy thing about it was a carjacking, but they didn't shoot him. He died of cardiac arrest. The sad part about it is he was a Vietnam veteran. He was a total Vietnam veteran. And it hurt my heart because I said, how is it that this man survived Vietnam but couldn't survive Chicago? He survived all those years, 80-something years old, and in Chicago, and loses his life because someone was bothering him. Someone who looked like him was bothering him to take what he had worked all his life to have. And when we don't think about each other holistically, fraternally, and say, that's my brother. Those young men are like my sons. Those young women are like my daughters. Those older women are like my mothers. Those women who are my age are like my sisters. And operate with this level of love and concern. Let's not just say love, with a level of love and concern. I am concerned about my community. I am concerned about your son, your daughter, your father, your mother, you. Concerned enough that I speak on it as regularly as possible. Because if we ain't talking about it, who is? And we can't get mad at men who are willing to talk about it. We can't get mad at men who may come into your life and bring some correction and say, this is not how this should be done. Right? I have an article I'm going to read, and sisters, I'm going to say this. This is not belittling. This is not to bash you. This is not to talk about you. This is to say, think on this. Because a lot of fathers are in prison, right? A lot of black men are being killed, right? A lot of people are, it's just you've been dealt a bad hand. Granted, some of you have. Some of you are just like this young lady whose father has been taken away from her at an early age. But if you are a mother who has a son and his father is not involved, or his father is not around, or he can't be involved, I wrote this some time ago, and I wanna read this to us because I still feel it's necessary. I have to be real. I still feel it's necessary, and I still feel it's relevant today. So I'm gonna read this article that I wrote some years ago with the Indianapolis Recorder because I want to. So this was written on September the 21st of 2017. And it says the title is He Is Your Baby. One day he'll be a man. And this was actually, I published it again in 2017. I wrote it on May 6, 2016. So man, that's been some time. Jeez, getting old, Gregory. Okay, so it says, let me start by saying there are too many absent fathers. Their absence definitely plays a role in the struggle of our children, which carries on into adulthood. We must do better as fathers. I will definitely be writing about that soon. But now let's get to the topic of the day. There are many mothers raising young men themselves. This is an unfortunate fact. It is a dangerous one as well. In spite of the moms being upset with their sons, you always tend to hear them say, but he's my baby. There are so many young men who don't even know how to get themselves up in the morning. What is going to happen when he's a grown man? What is it going to look like when you are expecting him to be responsible for doing this simple task on his own? Life for a Black man is no cakewalk. As bland as that statement is, I feel compelled to say it. The world is not going to be easy on him. There are so many people who are already against him. He must be prepared to be ridiculed and mistreated. He must get used to having many doors closed in his face. He must get used to hearing no. How do you go about raising the most hunted creature on the face of the planet? This is why fathers are so important, because the hunted can teach a youngling where the traps are and how to move around them. But if you have a man in your home who can give good guidance, then this is not for you. Mom, I know he is your baby, but you have to do something to increase the caliber of man these young men are becoming. If he is wearing $200 to $500 jeans and $200 gym shoes and does not work or have a job that can afford him these items, let me be the first to tell you, he does not need them. What lessons are you teaching him about money? What are you teaching him about being able to earn for himself? He will more than likely grow up believing that material things define who he really is, like most of us do. If he gets used to a woman providing for him now, what type of woman do you think he's going to look for in the future? You guessed it, one who will provide for him. You hear so many women saying, I'm not taking care of a man, yet there are so many already doing it and creating the exact man they talk about so badly. Growing up, I knew my mother loved me because she provided me with a decent living and made sure I was able to survive without doing something immoral, unethical, illegal, or dangerous. I grew up in the Jordan era, but my mother refused to buy me those shoes because she said I needed to know the value of $1. She also said she wanted me to understand how long it took to make $110. Unfortunately, there are too many kids who were not taught this lesson. And now we have adults who sell drugs, rob, steal, and kill to have material things. I urge mothers who do not have men in the household to raise the type of man she would marry. Stop doing everything for him and believing he will change from that privileged lifestyle to becoming a provider and a caregiver to his family. He won't take out the trash, clean gutters, cut grass, wash and gas cars, and fix things that need to be fixed if you are always doing it for him. Sleeping until noon is insane if you are not working second shift or third shift. It's even worse if you are not working at all. The likelihood of your son growing up to maintain the lifestyle you are providing for him is slim to none. Teach him lessons while you have the chance. If you wait until he's used to it, and it is almost an adult, he just might become disrespectful towards you. Don't force him into a lifestyle of wrongdoing to have material things. Going to prison for chasing a fictitious lifestyle makes absolutely zero sense. Dying to maintain a fictitious lifestyle is just unimaginable. Again, we do need fathers in the household, but if he isn't, that doesn't mean ease up on how you are raising your baby. One day, He will be a man, and a whole new world will be waiting on him. Will he be ready? And I wrote that in 2016 because when it's all said and done, it's like our young men need, listen, there's nothing wrong with discipline. Nothing. Not a darn thing. And what we see right now is an undisciplined world. We see where if anyone corrects anyone, we jump on them. Anybody that gives any level of correction, we don't want to hear it. Don't be talking. Kids go to school and all of a sudden it's like everybody is like, it's okay. It's okay to act a fool. We defend the foolishness, right? And I think that we have to be better agents of saying, no, the time for foolishness is over. I just showed you 2 articles, 2 young men, and I'm sure there's a plethora of more. We have 6 men in that case, 6, then one and another, who have lost their lives over the past weekend. Why are we quiet? This is the topic at hand. Our futures depend on it. Our kids are raising, are coming up with even if dad is not around, the ability to be able to call him is everything. On their own pretenses, on their own cognizance. If they want to call him, at least I hope he's alive to be seen and heard. That's us. It's us for us. It's for us to create life. It's for us to say, let us make sure we're doing right by our children, doing right by these young men. Stop thinking that dying at a young age is better than living to be old. This is the first generation I've seen in my life that doesn't pay homage to being old. People be like, ugh, yeah, the old self. It's like, are you for real right now? Being able to be 51 is such a blessing. And I'm not saying I did it right. I'm just saying that God, that something happened, and being able to be it, I didn't expect it. But I'm seeing so many. I just saw a young man, I think the young man they called for one of these was just 18. For one of these homicides, was 18 years old. And we're quiet. You know, they won't allow anyone to discipline their children because they're not doing it themselves, correct? But maybe and the other thing is they won't allow anybody to discipline their children because they weren't disciplined. And they think that they're okay. Think on that. Because Toby Miller and I said it. Iron sharpens iron. Anything else is getting cut. The problem is it ain't a lot of iron out here. It's a lot of people who claim to be iron. It's a lot of people who claim to be strong. It's a lot of people who claim to be leaders. It's a lot of people who claim to know so much stuff. But the evidence doesn't exist. We think me and Damon Lane talked about this. These dudes is doing this killing ain't hard. Hard is getting up every single day knowing that this world is against you. That's the hardest dude on the planet that gets up and say, I know I got to face racism. I know I got to face injustice. I know that I might have to have a situation where my kids don't acknowledge me. I know I'm going to hear no when I want a better job, a better home, a better car. I know I'm going to hear no often in this life. But I get up every day and I try. Ain't nobody tougher than him. No one is tougher than him. Walk in that. I promise you, if we start walking in that as black men, this world is going to have to do something different. They're going to have to get back to that thing. But there are provisions in place now for those things. They're going to have to treat us like they did when they was doing the lynchings and stuff. If we get back on our stuff. Then they really got to break the rules publicly. Then they got to break the rules in our face. Now, there's no real fight. There's no real fight out here that says, I got to go fight for this brother. You know what? 9 times out of 10, my brother will tell you this. And Donnell Howard will tell you this. Ron G will tell you this. I am the person, when something happens in our community, I'm the first person to say, slow down, let's get the information. You know why I say that? I say, slow down and let's get the information, because we might get ourselves out here defending someone who has done something ridiculous, and then we end up looking like we some weak social justice people. I don't just run out here and say, let me go out here and start defending these people, and then all of a sudden I do my due diligence and find out that they was doing the bull. And you find that a lot of times we try to defend people who are on some nonsense. But if we ever get it together, the defense is easy at that point. But I shouldn't have to pilfer through brothers and say which brother's doing right, which brother's doing wrong, and who can I defend? I could go on, because I was going to talk about the people we even got working with our kids. Nonetheless, I just want to say this, man. I had to do this show because it made for a tough weekend. Since we get it together by taking our history and taking the discipline that we once had in our history. And I'm not talking slave discipline. I'm talking Africa discipline. I'm talking about people who cared about their village, who cared about their homes, who cared about their families, who cared about their children, who cared about their spouses, who cared about their brothers. No one was expendable. No one was worth throwing away. Now, if you do some stuff to the village, I'm not saying throwing you away. I'm saying, but we got to do something about that. If you start doing something to harm the village and the people within the village, that's a problem. The problem is we don't have that anymore. People are bringing harm to their own people, and we don't do nothing about it. We take a side instead of saying there's only one side. And that's the side of this community. That's the side of all of us. And if anyone does anything towards our community that does not bring good fruit, then that's a problem to our community. Taking people's lives is a problem to our community. The church has a social responsibility. Stop duping people for the bread. Stop giving false doctrine. Stop making up stuff. The media has a social responsibility. Stop giving us false stuff. Stop making up stuff. The community, as far as government, our government officials have a responsibility. They need to show up, do the right thing, bring it, make sure that if we vote for you, then you are our voice. Period. And so when my brothers call me, one of my guys, his brother died this weekend. Another guy, his son died this weekend. Another one of my friends had their daughter's father, daughter, father. Yeah, the father of that's with their daughter, the baby. Yeah, the father got killed at Broad Ripple. So it made my weekend different because I took on all that. And it's not an easy task. And so that's why I felt the need to do this show, because when it's all said and done, when you get those phone calls, it's not the easiest thing. And as a person who endures whatever goes on in the community, I feel compelled to address it. And so nonetheless, we say it is what it is. So with that being said, man, closing out, I just want to say, make sure we're doing whatever we can do to better our communities on a regular basis. Stop playing the gimmicks and the games, because when it's all said and done, it's like we have to be better agents of taking care of ourselves. And, man, the verse of the day, Proverbs 22, it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that's been the premise of this is how are we raising our children? What are we doing? Am I raising you to be a killer? Am I raising you to be super, super sensitive to the degree where you'll take someone else's life? Or am I raising you to say life goes on, build on it, take it, endure the pain? Because when it's all said and done, it's like being in this shell is painful as hell. It just is. Ain't nobody easy on you. They're just not. More people will criticize, ridicule, hate, not think about it, not recognize the fact that you're getting up every day to even strive. The love of a black man is something different. We pay so much homage to mothers, but we never look and say, dang, the strength, the guidance, the wisdom, the protection, what it means to be that soldier and be able to get to 50. What it means, that means a whole lot when you think about it. To be able to be this takes a lot. And so, man, you know, I see my brother Anthony Hampton on here, man. Listen, prayers go out, bro. I know your man is hurting. And listen, bro, we'll wrap our arms around each other when it's all said and done. As survivors of this thing we call the world, but deep inside that we know as a jungle. I just want to say, man, I love you, bro, because you exude manhood and you share that every day. You share your pitfalls with those kids at Tech every single day. And I've always seen you standing up and fighting for the youth in this community. And it's a commendable thing that you do, bro. And for you to hit me, really, really, you know, it means a lot to me because I know you trust me with that type of stuff. And we're going to keep the families in prayer, bro. And so with that being said, man, this has been your brother. No apologies, please, man. We're going to keep touching on the tough subjects. It may not be pretty. It may not go the way we thought it should go. But at the same time, I'm going to keep doing what I do. So it's been y'all brother. I love y'all. Have a great Tuesday. And we'll talk tomorrow. Peace.